Good evening, everyone. I call the order of the August 9, 2016 Selectmen's meeting. Will you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Mr. Harmon, any announcements today, sir? Thank you. Selectmen's announcements. Mr. O'Regan. Mr. Khan. Mr. McCrisky. Mr. Brown. The only question I have, if the board entertain to do like citizens' comments at the school committee, to put up a piece of paper so they can sign in to see what their complaints are about. I'd like to make a motion on that if anybody would second it. What'd you say? Just like the Selectmen's school committee, they come up and write their name on citizens' comments and what they want to speak about. So they can, if it's, so that's what it is. Yeah. I can, all right then I'll start. That's.
I would add that you might want to stick to subject matter.
All right, that's what we'll do. All right, seeing none. Consent agenda. Oh, sorry. Is there a second on that? A, G, and H.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Sorry about that. I missed citizens' comments. Anybody here from citizens' comments? Any concerns? Seeing none, we're moving on. We have a hearing.
Come right up, Mr. Fitzgerald. We don't want to embarrass you.
I'm sorry I'm late. I didn't know you started, but I got tied up. Under citizens' comments, I just have a quick question. I'm going back to it's the quarterly visit. Wonder where the numbers are for the facilities, number one. And if we have them, if they're going to come. I know Mr. Reagan and I had a slight talk on the 7th of June, and where might we be with numbers? Are they going to get numbers? Are there numbers? Are there ever going to be numbers? Not to, I just want to know. It's the annual thing, quarterly report.
I don't know the answer of that.
Okay, can you give me an answer? Can you give me an answer?
I'm willing to meet with Mr. Fitzgerald and find
There you
out
go.
exactly what he wants.
That'll be fine. All I know that you said March of...
Mr. Fitzgerald, you okay with that? Make an appointment with the town manager?
If I can.
Yeah, sure. Want me to do it now? Yeah, I can make an appointment with him, yeah.
If I can.
Happy pills today?
Huh?
Take happy pills today?
No, I was running late, and I just thought I'd ask the question, that's all. I'll make the appointment, thanks.
Well, wait a minute, if I can. Is this the same issue that we've been talking about for months and months and
Yeah.
months that you keep coming
Since
back for?
It's a year.
March.
Oh, no. Why don't we settle it now? What's going on that we can't settle this issue? What is
He's
the,
gonna- he's
why
just
does
settled.
this guy have
He
to
just-
come down?
He just said to
All
make
right,
an
let
appointment.
me just
Mr.
say this.
Fitzgerald.
We did that before,
Well,
and it hasn't
He
happened.
just said to make an appointment. If he doesn't come next week, then we'll deal with it. Thank you, Mr.
I don't
Fitzgerald.
believe
I'll come
this
talk,
is-
I'll come,
this
I'll
has
come
been-
talk to the
Give him
town
a call
manager.
tomorrow, make an appointment, Mr. Fitzgerald, and go from there.
And let me know if you don't get a meeting, you don't get your answer resolved, because I guess I'll come up and ask it too.
Okay,
I mean,
thanks.
this is getting ridiculous.
Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing August 9, 2016 at 7. Oh, okay.
Oh,
no problems.
look what time it is, Spanky. We can go have ice cream.
Ice cream is nice, okay.
Okay, let's go.
No problems. Appointments. Council on Aging, Board of Directors appointment. Mary Ellen Soers.
Come on down. Yes, you may.
Good evening,
Move
Ms.
the
Soers.
microphone very close to you, please. Thank you.
It's an appointment. What's the wish of the board for Mrs. Soers?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, Ms. Soers. That was nice and
Thank
quick,
you.
huh?
Was that a
Easy, huh?
quick sit?
Cultural Council appointment, Adam Hardstock. All right,
Wait till we'll come back to it.
Faxon Park permit, Easton and Morton, September 4th, 2016.
Hello.
Good evening.
Want to sit down if
Sit
you
right
want?
down.
Sit right down.
Give me 2 seconds here.
Right here, Smith.
No, I got it all. Just, no, I don't have it all. Just. Police, fire. DPW said it's okay for the wedding to be held on September 4th, 2016.
Correct, yep.
You guys understand the traffic and the whole 9 yards?
Yes.
What is the wish of the board?
We accept it. Accept the permit, please. Accept it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope it's a good day.
Marijuana presentation.
Sit right down.
Thank you so much. Sorry. Thank you so much for having us today. This is, Oasis is coming to do a presentation to you about marijuana. You are the first stop on many of the presentations that we're going to be doing around the community around this. As you know, Oasis is concerned with youth access, and on the ballot question this year is the marijuana, to legalize marijuana. We wanted to give you guys some facts about that so that you're able to make informed decisions or to, again, refer people back to us. Stoughton has done a really good job trying to limit youth access when dispensaries were trying to come into Stoughton, or through the planning board and through ordinances that you guys have put into place as well. So Stephanie here has just some things that we've been learning as we do our research around this. So we thought we would start with that. So this is Stephanie Patton, the prevention coordinator for the town of Stoughton.
Okay, thank you. Is the screen okay where it is? And that's okay for Smack and Jeffrey and everybody, I guess?
Eric, is that okay for you? Okay.
It's good. Okay, thank you. So we wanted to share a little bit of information with all of you, just really focusing on the youth perspective around marijuana, because that's what the coalition focuses on. And so here we go. So I have a couple of slides, and then I'm happy to answer any questions. And if you have questions throughout, please feel free to ask. So this is a slide many of you have seen before. This is our longitudinal data, the data we've been collecting every other year from Stoughton students, thanks to the Stoughton Public Schools, who have been really terrific about letting us do this. And what I want to call your attention to on this slide, this shows what's been going on with alcohol, marijuana, and prescription drugs at the high school. And this is what we call current use. So this is when students say, yes, I used that drug in the last 30 days. What you see is we're doing really, really well with alcohol. And we're doing pretty well with prescription drugs, but our marijuana use rate seems to be on the rise again, which I'm going to explain why that isn't really a surprise, but it's something we really want to be concerned about, and it's something we're focusing on. So a couple of the reasons that we think this is true, there we go. Those are our actual percentage changes. One of the reasons we know that this can happen is that even though most of our students don't use marijuana, and this is a good thing, we absolutely want to continue to keep it that way. When we ask students what they believe about their peers, we know that they believe that most of their peers are using. So they think that 84% of our students believe that the average student uses marijuana. And in fact, when we ask kids who use, they think that nearly every single student, something like 98% of their peers use. So their misperceptions are in fact even higher. They really think everybody around me uses marijuana. It validates their reason for using. And for kids who don't use, it creates almost a false peer pressure around use. And so one of the things we're doing is we're really trying to correct that misperception, because we don't want kids to hold the belief that they are using, that their peers are using when they're not. The other areas that are concerning to us, particularly around marijuana, is that more of our young people drive under the influence of marijuana than under the influence of alcohol. That students at the high school who report that they drive, 20% of them report driving under the influence of marijuana, which is very concerning, of course, for a lot of safety reasons for both our students and the rest of our community. We also know that kids who think about whether or not drug use is risky, find that marijuana use, their belief is that marijuana use is not risky at all compared to other drugs, and that actually is a reason that kids use. When they think that things are safer, they're more likely to abuse something. And we also know that their perception is that their parents don't think it's as harmful either. So in their own homes, they feel like they're less likely to get in trouble if they use marijuana than alcohol. Now that's their perception. That doesn't mean that that's what parents believe, but this is what kids believe to be true, which is really what drives their behavior. So those are sort of the key things that put our young people really at high risk, is when it's when they think something is not risky, when there are cultural perceptions around a drug. And I'm going to share with you how laws in other states are really changing that and making that a problem for young people. And also when it's easy to get a drug, kids are more likely to use it. So alcohol, for example, is the #1 drug that kids use. There's a lot of alcohol in the environment. Even though it's legal, kids are still able to access that. And usually it's somebody makes a legal purchase, and because there's a lot of it around, kids are able to use it. So a couple key things. We do know that marijuana is addictive, particularly for young people. So 1 in 6 adults who use marijuana will actually get addicted to marijuana. But we know that the teen brain is actually much more susceptible to addiction because it's still developing. So, the teen brain is actually developing all the way into the mid-20s. So I think most of us in this room have fully developed brains, but that's not true of a lot of our population, and it definitely puts them at risk. Ooh, let me go back for a second. And we know that kids are prone to making rash decisions. That has to do with the fact that their brain isn't fully developed. And so, some of that impulsivity and the decision-making stuff, when you pair that with drug use, can cause a lot of social problems for them. But then the other issue is that their brains structurally are still changing. And so when you introduce a drug into a brain that isn't fully developed, you actually can cause structural changes that can create problems down the road. And so some of those problems, and some of these are things you've probably seen in the news or heard about in the research, is particularly when kids start using marijuana in adolescence. So we're talking about kids really using before the age of 18, which is really our focus. They tend to have long-term impact around issues with memory. So this is clearly a problem for academic performance. There's a study that was done out of New Zealand that followed kids from the age of 7 to 38 that actually showed that there was long-term IQ decline in these folks who, when they start using early, particularly before the age of 18, that IQ decline, even when they stopped using marijuana in adulthood, can persist. So sometimes we hear kids say, yeah, well, I'll just quit when I'm older, but sometimes those things can continue. There are a lot of studies that show a strong relationship between significant mental health issues, schizophrenia, anxiety, depression, psychosis, significantly increased when kids start using marijuana early. So that's a significant finding, particularly if you have family history of one of those issues. We also know that when kids prime their brain and change it around drug use, it can actually make them more susceptible for other drugs down the road. So as a state and as a community, we've been really concerned about opiate use and overdoses, and we know that when kids use marijuana early, if they are introduced to an opiate, whether it's because they break their leg and they need a painkiller, or they're experimenting with something recreationally, their brain is more apt to sort of like the way it feels if they were using other drugs early on. So it's another reason why this is actually really important. And there have also been some studies that show that people who use marijuana over the long term have a lot of societal challenges, including financial challenges, and in fact the studies showed that they have more financial issues than people who abuse alcohol, work-related issues, in their relationships, navigating those kinds of things. And so these are all things that are of concern for us as we're trying to help our young people grow up and go into the workforce and be responsible adults. The other thing that's significantly different about marijuana today is it's not the same marijuana that, people, when they think back and they think about Woodstock weed, it's not the same marijuana at all. The THC content, which is the main ingredient in marijuana, the psychoactive ingredient, is significantly increased over the last 20, 30 years. And so you can sort of see on this chart the red line, it shows sort of what's happening with THC, and this is in seizures. So this doesn't mean that this is the highest amount of THC that one could find in marijuana. This is sort of an average over police seizures across the country. The other component, main component in marijuana, which is CBD, which is the component we often hear about when people are talking about medicinal purposes for marijuana, has remained unchanged. So it's really the thing that makes the drug more, for people to get more high, that's the piece of the drug that's been changing. The other thing to be aware of, and we're seeing this in Massachusetts already, but certainly something that would be allowable in the law, are these high potency marijuana products. So these are things that are really engineered to have THC levels. So you were seeing THC levels on that chart of like 12%. These are products that are somewhere between 70 and 90% THC, very tiny amounts of a product. People refer to as sort of the crack of marijuana, things like dab and wax and shatter, and there's all sorts of street names for these things. Our police department has absolutely seen these. Can be very, very dangerous because in very small quantities, they are very, very potent. The other piece to this that is concerning, and when we talk about youth and sort of the culture of marijuana and the messages they get, is in places where marijuana is legal, what we see a significant amount of is commercialization. And so these are some ads from Colorado. I didn't make these up. These are things that are out there. Similar to the way tobacco is marketed at young people, you can see there's an ad here with Santa Claus. They're glorifying sexual imagery with this. There's, all sorts of, because it's Colorado, there's all sorts of freebies with skiing and all kinds of things. There's some sort of a cartoonish character, Budman or something, that goes to college campuses. But this is what young people they're living in this environment in other states where marijuana is legal, and it really changes their perception of what they think the drug is about and whether or not they believe that it's dangerous. The other piece to commercialization are edibles and other products, and the ways that marijuana is infused into things like soda and cookies and candy and other drinks. And Karen we're gonna talk a little bit at the end about the proposed law in Massachusetts. Definitely, it does allow for this. And so these are products that we would see here if we see legalization in Massachusetts. And you can see the candy products in particular are very appealing to children. They look sort of, if you look fast, it looks like you're looking at Reese's Peanut Butter Cup or Almond Joy or something else. The other piece that we're concerned about is, when we look at other states and we think about sort of what's happening in places where marijuana is legal, one of the things that we know is that, and Karen had referenced youth access to marijuana as one of our main concerns, is that when there is more of a drug, as we had said, it's easier for kids to get access. So when there's more alcohol, it's easier for kids to get alcohol. When there is more marijuana, it's easier for them to get marijuana. And not because it necessarily means that they can go into a facility and buy. In Stoughton, for example, our vendors are terrific. We don't have young people buying alcohol at liquor stores. That just really doesn't happen. What happens is somebody makes a legal purchase, they have it in their home, and they either give it to a young person or a young person takes it without their permission or knowledge. And this is the same kind of thing that happens with marijuana. Even with medicinal marijuana, it gets diverted oftentimes. The purchase itself is completely legal. The security and all of those pieces and the regulation stuff, that's not the challenge. It's sort of this social access piece. And so the best information we have about this actually comes from a national survey, the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, and it's showing that really in Colorado, the use rates are higher sort of across every single age bracket. There's been a lot of media that suggests that there actually hasn't been a change, particularly with youth marijuana use rates in Colorado, and they're looking at some other studies that have happened out of Colorado, the Colorado Youth, it's the Healthy Kids Survey, and actually, if you look closely at the data, because we all know you can do all kinds of things with statistics, if you look really closely at that data, the survey itself is very different than the survey they gave 2 years ago. So they can't really compare, and they didn't have a great sample. And so it makes it very difficult for them to extrapolate and generalize that data. They also didn't survey a number of their very large cities and places where marijuana is being sold. In Colorado, there are actually many, many communities that have banned the sale of marijuana. They don't have recreational facilities at all. But cities like Denver and some of the other major cities have a lot of it, and so it kind of skews their data. So it's something to be aware of. The other thing that we see happening that's particularly concerning with young people is accidental overdose. So when you look at some of those edible products that I showed on the other screen that look very appealing and have, or the high potency products that have very high levels of THC, it's very easy for somebody to inadvertently ingest a lot of this drug, and particularly if you're a small person, that can happen really easily. I mean, you could imagine, when I was a kid, I got into my mom's Advil because they look like M&Ms, you know. And so they're seeing, this is from the Washington Poison Center, and this is data that goes from 1999 all the way through 2015. The green bars are pediatric cases of poisoning, and the blue line is just accidental poisoning cases that are related to marijuana, and you can see a significant increase in the calls that they've been receiving around accidental poisoning. So also a concern. Oop, and backwards, because the thing is backwards. The other issue, and I shared with you the data about Stoughton kids and driving under the influence of marijuana, and you know, I believe that that's higher than driving under the influence of alcohol because I think kids are confused and they think it's safer, and they've been getting a lot of mixed messages in the media about this drug. That marijuana traffic deaths in Colorado are sharply on the increase, and this is data from their traffic highway safety folks, and they've been following this pretty closely. And so these are cases where marijuana was involved when there was a traffic fatality.
And actually, in neighboring states, that number of the fatalities is actually going down. Across the nation, fatalities are down, car-related fatalities are down, but in Colorado and in Washington, that they're actually going up.
Right. Yep. Great. Okay, so I'm going to do, but I want to end on something positive, and I want to tell you about some of the resources we have, and then I want to answer any questions you all have either about this or I've been spending a lot of time reading the proposed law, so I might be able to answer questions about that as well. Just as a reminder, most of our kids are not using marijuana. Our focus really is to keep it that way and to keep driving the rates of non-users up and the rates of users down, and and to help really reinforce all of our kids who are making really, really great decisions, and to really keep it that way. So I do want to say that we've been doing a couple of things, as Karen alluded to. We sort of are starting to kick off this roadshow. We want to go out and just talk to folks about this issue. We think it's really important, it's timely, and so I want to say publicly we are happy to go anywhere, anytime, and talk about this to anyone. So anybody, any group, feel free to call us, and I'm happy to come out and do that. And I have some coalition members who are excited at the opportunity to actually do that as well. We have produced a double-sided one-page, and I have it, infographic piece that basically what we spoke about in the PowerPoint is sort of it's all the same information. So we have that, and I can share those with all of you. I have enough of those. I also have a summary sheet about some of the challenges and information about the Massachusetts marijuana ballot question, and I have copies of the proposed ballot question if people feel so inclined and they want to read it. It's something like 17 pages long. It's Mass General Law language, so it's probably not for everyone, but it's there's a lot of stuff in there. It's very complicated, and it's something that people should be aware of and be thinking about as they need to think about this issue. So, questions? Yeah.
CA has their camp up there running right now
Yes.
with little kids,
Yep.
medium kids, and big kids.
Yep.
Only a suggestion.
Yeah.
While they're up there, and there's a lot of them, let me tell you. Maybe you can set up an appointment with the camp or Ellen Green up there, and maybe you can get to either the medium and the large. They're a large crowd up there, and you hit a lot of kids. I don't know if they all come from Stoughton, wherever they're from, but only a suggestion.
Well, thank you, and we appreciate that. One of the things that we're, especially from, as Oasis, and the kids themselves are making pretty good decisions around marijuana. We want to make sure that we foster an environment that continues to support that with the school programs, in addition to the school programs. So one of the things that we're really looking at is to continue some of the good policy work as well. So I think that we do programming, and some of the kid programs are not necessarily where Oasis is. It's more geared towards some of the policy things. Like Stoughton has done a really good job of regulating how people could or could not apply for a license for to sell medical marijuana. And they've made it very well known that Stoughton is not favorable to dispensaries. And that's good policy, and that's some of the stuff that the planning board has written, and Stephanie had helped to kind of formulate that. You guys as a board don't write letters of non-opposition or support or anything like that for dispensaries, so that's some of the work that we continue to do. So ours is really kind of foster that environment. As the youth commission director, for me, this is a really big issue in the fact that access is access. So when we think about how do we keep kids safe, when we teach our kids not to play with matches, the way we teach kids is we supervise them. We don't have lighters, we don't have matches all over the place, and that's the same type of thing that we want to do on a community level as well. And I think that one of the things that concerns me the most is if this ballot question passes, is that the autonomy of the towns is taken away, and our right to regulate is severely limited with the law the way that it's written right now. And so you guys as a policy board, I think that you guys have set some really good policies, and this is one of the reasons that we're starting with you guys, is that you guys have already set some really good policies, and we would hate for those to be undermined at a state level, where we can't, where the town of Stoughton has no authority on those things. So I think that as the youth commission director, access, and if this ballot question passes, I think is going to severely change how our kids are faced with the issues of marijuana and how they deal with drugs or different things like that. So you think about how much legislation we've done with tobacco and with alcohol, and still alcohol is the #1 drug that kids use illegally. So from that point of view, there's a lot of really great science that Stephanie has looked at. There's a really, and there's a lot of junk science that the pro-marijuana people are putting out to kind of counter that. I'm sure I'm going to get some pushback because I call it junk science, but so like when you really look and how do you do measurable outcomes, there's a lot of stuff that they're trying to push that says that it's not. And really the edibles, especially in mental health, one cookie, right? And I know I can eat 2, maybe 4, but is 4 servings of marijuana, and it'll say, so a quarter of a cookie is really what the serving of the THC would be. And I know as I could get silenced for that, but one cookie could be 4 things. So I know we don't want to take up people's time. We know that people's time is valuable, so we appreciate the opportunity for this. You guys as a board have a couple of different options. You guys could take a position on the marijuana statement. You guys always feel free to do that. We have a lot of information, so also feel free to have anybody contact Stephanie if they're asking you guys questions. We're happy to go on to any community boards, churches, synagogues, anything to talk about this, and we can talk about it in depth for a long time. Absolutely. So yeah, we would absolutely be able to do that. You can just contact Stephanie, and do you have Stephanie's contact information is right there, and we can certainly we're happy to do that.
Mr. Brown.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I
Turn your
have a
mic on.
question. It's on.
Okay.
It's on. The first slide that you showed,
Yep.
the data, was rising, was that for the town of Stoughton?
Yes.
And clearly advertisement and being subjected to all this stuff around the country. The reporting directly reflected from the school-age children, like, are you only collecting that data from the kids themselves, the students themselves? Or are there any staff, police, school teachers, anyone else involved in that?
Yeah. So we collect the data directly from students 6th through 12th graders, and we work very closely with the schools to do that. So the survey administration, actually, it's quite a bear. It's a huge undertaking for the public schools to help to do that with us, and in fact, we're due for another survey in the February of 2017, so it's coming up that we'll have new data, which is really great. We have surveyed parents in the past, and we've surveyed teachers in the past, and we ask them oftentimes about their perceptions about kids using, sometimes about what, you know, their rules in their own homes, those kinds of things, because it's interesting for us to compare what the students believe about what's happening and then what the parents say. We have a really tough time getting really good, a good representation of parents to respond to surveys. It's generally really difficult to do that. When we survey teachers, we can kind of get everybody, because we can usually go to a faculty meeting and get everybody. But
That was my question.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know if it was just, it kind of surprises me that everybody in, would you say 90-something% think everyone else uses it?
they all think yes.
That's a little surprising, but on top of that, I wanted to know if there were adults on top of, whether it be teachers or principals and
No, it's just
staff.
it's student
Well,
self.
no data, that's just the students.
Just the students.
And of
But I
course,
think
you
that the
did
other
touch
thing is
upon-
that's not only is that Stoughton data,
Yeah.
that's statewide data, that's national data. Every kid thinks that everybody else is doing it except for me and my 5 friends. But that's their perception because of false peer pressures, things like that. So, and when we shorten that gap, like for how many kids, if once that perception goes down, actually use rates follow. Because that's one of our key strategies, is to correct that misperception. And once that misperception is corrected, use rates actually go down. And that's a proven strategy for prevention in general.
But as you mentioned, with the potential ballot question and the fact that there is a change in culture and thought process with different lawmakers, so I'm sure that's going to be a struggle. But thank you, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Mr. McCrisky.
Thank you very much. Keep up the great work.
Mr. Regan.
Maybe 10 months ago, we talked about an issue of synthetic marijuana and about developing an interdepartmental program to address that issue, which got stuck.
It did.
I'd like to unstick it. So, and I see that relates directly into what you talked about, and in fact, you educated me on some of the ramifications of the synthetic marijuana that are worse than what you presented. So, without getting into some of the tools we talked about to try to get together on, could you give us an overview? Because many people watching don't understand synthetic marijuana, don't understand the availability, don't understand what the problem is, and the limitations on the town and public health in general to cope with it. Because what we were talking about rolling out was a community-wide effort to have the standard of the town that you've talked about tonight, is that the standard of this community would be, we don't need a bylaw, we don't need police, we don't need state influences. We are just not going to put up with commerce that engages in peddling synthetic marijuana to our children, and come up with a plan to deal with that. So that's sort of off the table tonight, but I wanted people to understand what we were looking at.
Yeah.
Could you describe what the problem is and the significance of it?
Yep. So when we talk about synthetic marijuana, we're talking about products that sometimes are known as bath salts, K2, spice. So they carry all sorts of different names, and they're not actually marijuana. There's a synthetic component to them. They're chemically created. They don't exist in nature. which is why they're synthetic. And what's really dangerous about these products is they can cause all sorts of very violent and sort of psychosis-like behavior if somebody ingests them. And for a long time, the challenge with synthetic products was that they were being produced, usually overseas. Place would sell them, the state would say, okay, no, that's illegal, we can't sell that here. And then they would change the chemical component by one molecule, and they would go, guess what, it's legal again, and then they would sell that, and they would change the name, and it would, in theory, be a different product. So what happens when they change it molecularly by a tiny bit, it's considered, they call it an analog. So it's basically, it's functionally the same drug, it's off by a little bit. In Massachusetts, something that's really good that happened, that it sort of happened a little bit under the radar and people didn't really realize this, is that under Mass General Law, Chapter 94C, which is all the drug laws, synthetic products, synthetic marijuana is illegal. And analogs are actually illegal. So the state made a move, which isn't true everywhere across the country, to say, you can't fool us. You can change a chemical little piece of that. It's still illegal. If you sell that product, it's against the law, actually. And so in the same way that if you suddenly decided I'm going to sell cocaine in my store because it seems like that would be lucrative, that would also be illegal. So we shouldn't, in theory, be seeing that. I think we do need, I think it exists. I think our students periodically use it. We don't have good survey data about that, unfortunately, because when we created the survey a number of years ago, it wasn't a question we were asking. And so it's something that I'm hoping we're going to see on our new survey, because when we update our survey instruments, which we're doing currently, we try to think about what are the new drug trends, things like vaping, for example. We don't have data on that, and hopefully we will. So that's one thing we need to figure out, is we need to ask our students if they're using these products. From when I've spoken to students in focus groups, we don't see a lot of that. I think our students are savvy to the fact that it's extremely dangerous, and you really don't know what you're getting when you do something like that. And that people have gotten into a lot of trouble. However, I think we need to still be vigilant, because the products are clearly being sold in some fashion. I mean, people are able to access them. So I agree with you. I think we need to look at that again. They are very dangerous, and it's certainly something we absolutely don't want students dabbling with. It's way less common than alcohol and marijuana use, but potentially in sort of an acute situation, like a one-time use, could be way more dangerous. So it's sort of, it's the same issue with things like heroin. Not a lot of very few students essentially, it's very close to zero. Students report that they use heroin, but we really worry about the ones that do, because, one time can be fatal. So, we have to weigh these things about, like, sort of the severity and the dangerousness of the drugs also with the amount of the drug that's being used. So I'm happy to open that door again. And
so maybe, Mr. Hartman, maybe what we can do is line up the departments that we had been talking about, and I'll get together with you to try to figure out how we could make this work. And there was going to be an outreach to the community, to business organizations and the like, help from the police department in areas that would be enforcement, but more community-based, and a community intolerance to this, including, to tip our hand, including, decals on facilities that would indicate whether their store recognized the community standard on what they would and would not sell, and an effort to have members of the community patronize the stores that did, and maybe use the power of the pocketbook to not patronize the stores that didn't subscribe to the standard. But it was a mix of things, so.
And if we were to find out that a store was selling that kind of a product, I mean, it is against the law. So I'm not aware at the moment, I think our business owners are also making good choices. But I do know that some level of this does exist in the
Right, and it came to our attention because a resident had seen it, I believe, in 2 stores in town.
I think, well, the resident saw what the resident saw was a lot of paraphernalia. So I'm not sure, I don't know that we ever confirmed that we saw synthetic marijuana, but there's some other products that are concerning. Yeah.
Okay, so we Can we? Okay. Thank
So,
you.
and I think that Stephanie, one of the things that we always start to look at is, so we don't have to recreate the wheel, is other communities that have had successes or doing different things like that. So I think that we have a lot of the people who we're talking about sitting at the coalition table already. So it might be, it's something that is easily for us to take a look at in a subgroup or different things like that, because we already have many of the people in many of the business communities and already sitting at the table. So I think that's something we could absolutely address.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
It's on now, sorry. Good evening, Adam, thank you for showing up. Cultural Council appointment for Adam Hartstock. Is there a motion? Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
I see you're a BU guy, so I used to work for BU years ago, so congrats. Take care. Still too early. Too early, it's not 7:15 yet, so let me see what we got here. Taj Estates, how long is that gonna take roughly?
How many minutes, Mark? 10?
What about, no, it's gonna be on the stand, so. Cannot do it. Nope, can't open nothing. Yeah, 3 minutes, so let's do the Tosh. Mark, what do you think is quicker? The proposal is sewer, 138, what's gonna be quick for me? Let's get the town square next, and then, so we get these people in and out of here, so they don't have to spend here all night. So appointment F.
Yes.
Yeah, you gotta, get the mic on, so.
All right, this is the town square, so there's a set of plans.
Yeah, these are the ones we sent us?
Oh, it's a different one.
Thanks.
Oh,
Thank you.
this little one right here.
Thank you, sir.
All right, a few months ago, if you remember, we presented a plan to the board for improvements to the town square. We called them the short-term improvements. Essentially, the improvements were modifying the southerly island to get a dedicated left turn lane, along with some striping improvements and whatnot. Since then, we've made a few modifications to the plans. One is we're adding planters to the southern island, actually made of granite curbing. So they'll be inside the island, inside the curb line. They'll be rectangle in shape, and they'll be granite curbing, so it'll be of a nice spot for plants. That got recommended by the beautification committee. We also are adding, since we're doing new paving to the square and new island work, we're upgrading all the accessible ramps now. In talking to the DPW director, he thought it was a good idea. I agree. And we're adding new accessible ramps to all the existing locations in the square. Right now, our existing ramps are uncompliant to ADA and AAB regulations. A small change, the center crosswalk. I'm not sure if you're familiar with those signs that can get hit that says pedestrian crossing. We're actually putting one of those right near the crosswalk. It's not the kind that sits on the ground that can get hit and moved away. they actually get flush mounted to the pavement, and you can take them off in the wintertime and plow over them. So, and they take a pretty good hit if a vehicle's traveling. So it just makes people a little more aware of a pedestrian in the crosswalk. And the last change is the northern island, so not the southern island, but the northern island. That island has sloped granite curbing. We're reconstructing the southern island with vertical granite curbing. We're proposing to change the curbing on that island, not where it's located, but the type of curbing from sloped to vertical. And the treatment inside the existing island right now is cobblestones on the end. They're all kind of falling apart and they need to be mortared, so we're going to reset those. And the center part is kind of like a stamped concrete paving. It's all cracked, all waving. There's a couple spots for plants to be planted, but there's none there. So we're proposing to take that stamped area out and making it all landscaped. And that got endorsed by the beautification committee. I guess now that we have a beautification committee, they want to improve that on a yearly basis. Plant the plants, maintain them, that kind of thing. And that's the only changes to the plan.
Couple questions.
Yep.
Are you going to narrow any of the islands in the center? You going to narrow any of them?
So the southern island, we haven't changed the design from what you saw previously. It is getting narrower. To add a dedicated left turn lane, that lane can actually take about 3 vehicles, which is great, because now you'll open up if there's only 3 vehicles in that lane, you'll open up a complete through lane going to 138, which right now there's a pinch point, and vehicles stop right there backing up through the square. Once you get past 3 cars that want to take a left, you're back to the same situation, but it's better than it is now.
Another question, beautification committee wants landscape and all that. Are we going to have a water buggies? So they can a water buggy, like a trailer with water on it, they're going to water every day, or are we going to run underground sprinkler system so it can stay watered?
They do the water.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the board?
Yes.
Mr. McCrisky?
On the, you still end up with, you're going to have 2 lanes that can go through to Park Street, correct? If I'm looking at page 3 correctly, that shows the modified island where it's shrunk down.
I think one goes left.
So, no, that was actually one of the improvements, because right now you have that dangerous merge that occurs.
Okay. Which one shows the island as it's going to be?
Page? Sheet 4.
So what are you going to have, basically a left turn up 139, straight up 27, and then towards 138?
Exactly.
Okay.
And we're able to do that because we're adding that.
Did you have any traffic counts on the vehicles that are taking a left in the peak hours?
Yeah, there's approximately 5 to 10, depending on the day. So we don't anticipate, and that's during the whole hour. I'm sorry, during the peak 10 minutes. So we don't anticipate there to be more than that in that queue lane. Hopefully, during most of the day, you're going to have less than 3, and it's going to improve the situations. During peak hours, I think you still might have a small situation, but it will be an improvement. We couldn't extend the lane further north because we just didn't have the room.
Where you have right now the 2 lanes fighting for that, now you're going to a single lane with a drop lane for the 3rd lane. Is there any anticipated backups? Because now you're going to 1 lane that they're going to have to be in. What is that going to do to the queue going through the north side intersection on the town hall end?
Could you, I'm not sure.
You've got 2 lanes now essentially that could go through the center of town to go up to Park Street.
Yes.
Take your life in your hands at the last minute,
Right.
Squeeze it in, but you make it. This is Massachusetts, we're tough,
Yeah.
we do it.
Yeah.
But now you're going to take away one of those lanes queuing up to go to Park Street.
Yep. No, that's a good question. I got you.
What's the, there's going to be impact. Is there, because I could just see it stopped in the center of town now, even, having a hard time to getting through this end of the square.
When we had our traffic engineers take a look at it, a lot of the vehicles are going to Park Street, but a lot are going 138, but you don't really know because you're stuck in that lane. So now the vehicles that want to go to 138 have that free lane to go through. If there's only 3 cars queued up in that left turn lane, the other ones can go to Park Street. If the queue in Park Street starts to build up, I think, and you're saying backing up through the square, that can be controlled by signalization, so it doesn't back up that far. So that's going to be something that we're going to monitor after these improvements are made.
I'll tell you, you pull this off, your name will go down in history in this town, because nobody's been able to get it done yet.
Like I said,
And we still haven't got it done.
this is
So,
not going to
keep
fix the
effort.
problem, okay? It's just going to help the situation out.
I agree, I hope it does, but, it just, every time we seem to fix one thing, something else happens, and then we have to address that. So, but no, great, thank you.
Mr. Brown, any questions? Mr. Khan?
It's a good question. The plans are in our DPW director's hands, and he's coordinating the schedule to be done this year, hopefully in the fall.
I got another question, quick.
Thank you.
Mr. O'Regan?
One of the aspects of this plan, if I remember right, are some flexible lane markers, lane dividers. Is that going in this phase?
No, I think if you probably remember when we were actually going to do the left turn, the no left turn onto Lyman Street, we were going to have those on that design, but when that didn't happen, we took those off.
Okay.
Yep.
Mr. Khan and Ms. McCrisky?
You go there now,
Your mic, Eric's going to...
even the little thing you're going to put on the street to show this a crosswalk, there's 2 signs that I saw recently. It says crosswalk, and there's a big arrow pointing to the crosswalk, so people can see them on both sides. They don't light up, and by the way, one of those lights are out over there. When they flash,
Yep.
they should be fixed, but maybe if you put crosswalk with a big sign on it besides that, people will stop. They're still not stopping there, and they take their lives in their own hands crossing that because they don't know.
I think you got an adequate point, and it's been brought up recently that when somebody pushes the button, they just start walking because they automatically think the car is going to stop. Because in a normal intersection, that does happen when you have a stop control. These are different. So that we're exploring some possibilities. You can actually put some messages when you push the button to tell the people what to do. For instance, you can push a button and a message will say, "Do not cross until vehicles are stopped." That kind of thing. So we're looking into.
I still think those big signs give them an extra they see if they want to see.
Mr. McCrisky?
Hope it works.
On page 5, the north end, I noticed proposed mulch area, and that has
Correct.
the stamp now. Do you know what, if we put mulch, do you know what that's going to look like while people are waiting, where they throw their cigarette butts?
A fire.
No, I'm not worried about the fire, because they get in the mulch, they stay there, at least with a leaf blower or the sweeper, they can clean that. I would strongly suggest we look for an alternative to that. It's happened before on the other ends of the square, because I've been up there a few years myself, doing some plantings, and they just, while they're sitting at the light, they just toss their butts out the window. And I know people that just come through don't care about our town, they just want to get through the center of town. I don't care about that, I want to try and make it look nice. I don't see trees, are those trees coming out?
That's going to be a plan that's done by the beautification committee for the shrubs and the trees.
Well, I don't see shrubs here, though. I mean, everything else is here, and it shows other things, but what's the purpose of shrubs? I mean, they take more of a beating in the winter from the snowplows anyway, and that's what we've had a problem with every shrub in downtown, as it stands, as you know, on one side, whatever
bless you.
angle the plow is pushing to, the salt kills them. So why would we change what's working now?
Well, it was the opinion that what's there right now, there's really nothing planted right now. There's several spots cut into that stamped pavement that is supposed to be landscaped, and it's not landscaped. They just don't hold up with the stamped pavement around it. So by landscaping the whole area, you actually get it irrigated, you get it watered better, and things can last a little better in a situation like that.
There's trees there now.
The trees are lasting, but there's actually some smaller cutouts.
No, I understand the
for
smaller
shrubs.
areas.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. We can put whiskey barrels or whatever on that. But my question is, this island shows no trees.
We're
Unless-
not going to take the trees that are there right now out.
Okay, that's my question.
Yes.
What I would ask, though, is that we should do something other than mulch. I think we're going to be asking for a problem. It's going to look horrible. Nobody's going to be out there raking it, Mark. You know it and I know it. I mean, we should look at something, if we can do cobblestones and then have an exposed area for the trees to grow into, something big enough. I mean, I don't know what that does to the dollar amount, but I would imagine it's up there. But even if we did concrete brick that is cheaper than the cobblestones,
Yeah.
you know, I don't think that's going to work. It's going to be messy. We're not going to be keeping up. We don't keep up with the ends of the islands now. What makes us think we're going to keep up with a bigger area that we're putting in? We don't go up and remulch that often. You know, it's whenever somebody thinks about it and makes a suggestion. And so unless we're going to come up with a regular maintenance plan that you've got a plan for and a budget for, I think we should be looking at something like brick, a finished brick.
According to the beautification committee, this would be something that they would handle on a yearly basis. When we first presented this, they weren't even around. So maybe it's a
They're
type
going
of...
to pay for the mulch and do all this work, or what are we?
DPW is going to pay for the supplies, they're going to maintain it.
Okay. While you're doing that, if the trees are going to remain, if you do that, also, there was electrical work done in there so that we could put Christmas lights up on those trees. That all needs to be redone?
The electrical work there, from what I heard, is the conduit's fine, they just need to do some repairs up above
I
grade.
think there's a problem. We did have a problem where it was, we should look at that. If we're going to be tearing it up, let's look at it once.
That's going to be part of this.
It ended up being that we couldn't use what was there. We had to run extension cords along the base.
Yep.
So, okay.
Tisdale, one question on the crosswalk for our visually impaired residents. We're going to get somewhat noise saying do not cross. We're going to change that. How can we?
That's exactly what I was talking about. We're looking into, automated messages, so when you hit the button, we got to come up with we'd also obviously present that to the board, something that warns them to only cross when the vehicles are stopped. The problem with somebody who can't see, that's not going to help at all, but if you're visually impaired, it will help.
So how can we do that to take care of everybody? So if you're blind, you really can't see, and can we make it audio or a buzzing? I know in the city they have a buzzer or a bell or...
Yeah, well, right now when you...
That should be priority. If we're going to fix it, might as well fix it, do it right now.
Right now, when you hit it, the noise, you know that you actually did hit the button and it's on. But the thing is, if you have a problem seeing and you start walking, not all vehicles are going to be stopped because then there's no stop light to tell them to stop. So then that's always going to be a problem, unfortunately, with a situation like that.
Is there something we can look into that to make sure that can be fixed or before?
You cannot put a stop signal on the...
No, not a stop sign, but saying like the beep, like you can cross now. I know there's in the city, they've like a buzzer, beep, 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 and they know.
That's exactly what we're talking about.
Okay.
We've had some research on that, and we're going to be talking to DPW again on the 3 locations.
Also, Mark, on that too, they have, Watertown is big on this because you got Perkins Institute there. When you get down to say 10 seconds, 10, 8, 5, it gives the person going across the street. And that must be all tied in with the sound.
But see, that's when you're under stop control. You can do that because the vehicles are stopped and you can tell somebody exactly how long they got to cross. In a situation like this with a mid-block crossing, you can't do that.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to echo Mr. McCrisky's comment. I agree with him, except I'd go a little further on the use or non-use of mulch. In addition to maintenance issues, mulch looks good and then looks not so good. It doesn't age well. To the extent we can encourage the beautification committee to use live, plant material ground cover in those areas that would be harder to withstand the heat, that would make for a more inviting square. If you go through some communities that have a lot of green in the areas, it just is a happier place to be. One of the things we're trying to do, and I get what they're working hard at, is to bring that atmosphere into the square. And so to the extent when this work is being developed, if we can identify opportunities for live ground cover that would be attractive, even if it isn't a shrub, because the shrub can't take the plow, there may well be some ground cover, maybe even some hardy grasses that would go in there just to make it more pleasant, because when you drive through a place that's, you know, all concrete and all asphalt, it's not such a pleasant experience to do. It looks, I wouldn't want to say this about our downtown, and I'm probably the first one to say it, but our downtown is not terribly attractive. And every little thing we can do, including building this out to make it easy for the beautification committee to beautify it, I would like to ask you to do.
So pretty much what I hear from the board, I think it's a good point, is
Well, Pachysandra?
Well, that's what I was thinking, but I understand.
Pachysandra takes a big abuse. People walk over it.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with what that is.
It's like a ground cover. Looks like a,
Like a juniper or something?
I don't know, I call it a weed, but it looks,
they
it
just-
just grows wild and it
Yeah.
stays green year round. And
Okay.
like I said, they had it at BU and they planted it and the kids
So why don't we
walk
do
on it.
this? Why don't we get the board a planting plan for that center area? But as long as you're in agreement with our concept, and we can move forward, we'll get you a planting plan before we start planting plants.
Get a horse trough for the ashes, you know, like the,
Did
you
you
used
say
to have the
horse
tolls,
trough?
you ride by, throw your money in, you know, we'll make it
That's
look
right.
nice, and they go into a container, you know, and just put a big sign that says, "Be considerate," you know?
Just show me where to put that on the plan, and we'll spec that out for you.
Make sure there's clean water in the horse trough.
Thank you, Mr. Tisdale.
Sorry, I thought it was gonna be shorter than that.
Thank you. We're going to move up to hearings, public hearings. Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing August 9, 2016, at 7:15 at the Great Hall, Town Hall, 10 Pearl Street, Stoughton, Mass. To consider the application, MIC 123, Inc., DBA as Mike Real Deal Diner, annual wine and malt beverage license, Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 23. Second of the premises of 1261 Park Street, Stoughton, Mass. Chairman of the board, myself. It's published in the Stoughton Journal, July 29, 2016. Application, Michael J. Jacobs, Mike's Real Deal Diner. Good evening.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you. Mr.
I'd like to
Cohen.
make a motion, we open the hearing, please.
Second,
All in favor of the public hearing?
Aye.
Aye. Good evening.
I just want to let you know that young lady's just was told a couple of weeks ago she's pregnant. So she's going to be a new mommy. Congratulations. Thank you very much. And you will be up many nights. You might as well not even go to sleep.
I know. I already don't.
He'll go to sleep.
I'm used to it already. Thank you.
Gentlemen, ladies,
Go ahead.
the floor is yours.
Move the microphone closer.
How's everybody doing tonight? We just like to respectfully ask the town of Stoughton for permission to sell beer and wine at Mike's. And I'd like to take the opportunity
Move the mic a little closer.
I'd like to take an opportunity to thank the good people of Stoughton for their support since we opened, and just say that we're very grateful to be here. We're very grateful to be in the town, and you know, things are in a good spot for us.
Well, on behalf of my daughter, who's top chef America, she says, she gives you 2 thumbs up. My daughter's 14 years old, and she thinks she's the world's greatest chef. She gives you 2 thumbs up. She says your food's great, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. She says it's impeccable. So for my daughter listening at home, if she's listening at home, yeah, she thinks she's an unbelievable chef, but she loves your food, so thank you for that, so.
Thank you.
And Spanky wants to thank his overtime account for paying for this, too.
Yeah. Mr. Regan, do you have any questions?
No questions? Thank you.
Mr. Khan, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Mr. McCrisky?
no, just a comment, that it's not often that you get phone calls ahead of time, people trying to encourage you to vote for a license. Usually you come through it, but, you know, word got out. I got a couple phone calls from residents, so you're making an impact. I mean, and it's good. Keep up the good work. You're doing a great job up there.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Brown?
Nothing but
Chairman,
positive reviews, and I welcome.
It's been our goal since day one, so thank you for telling us that.
Since this is a public hearing, anybody in the audience like to speak? Ms. Walsh?
Cynthia Walsh, 1096 Park Street. Have both the churches, did they receive notices? This is next to a church and across the street from a church? There was no feedback. What hours will the alcohol be served?
It's 8 to 1, that's the town law, is 8 to 1. 8 AM to, license, a liquor license is right to the hour, right? Am I
No,
mistaken,
Mr.
Jamie?
Chairman, it'd be 8 to 11 PM unless the local option after 11 PM is exercised.
Can I ask you a question? Well, what are your hours?
We open at 5:30 a.m. Tuesday through Thursday. Sunday, we're closed on Monday, and we close at 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays.
So you don't need 11 o'clock license.
No, it goes to 11 anyway, that's the law, it has to go up to 11.
I know, but
No. And the goal isn't it's really, the goal is just so that we can offer somebody a beer with their burger, or a glass of wine with their piece of haddock, or just to be able to offer that to them would help us just improve our service. That's all.
We're not adding in a bar, anything like that. Exactly what he said, a beer with your burger, a glass of wine with your dinner, and that's where it's going.
I have to concur with several previous speakers. I've heard nothing but praise about the food, so I'm hoping that adding alcohol won't make a difference in the comments that people make.
Anybody else for public comment? Please step forward, ma'am. Say your name, address for the board, people at home.
Hi, my name's... I live at 19 Parkview Ave in Stoughton, so I'm one of the abutters. And my concern is that right now the hours are fine and everything, but 6 months from now, do they decide to go until 11 or 12, 1 o'clock in the morning? I would object to that. And I just want the board to know that, there is a residential area right there, so that's a concern.
No, all due respect, we had the same thing at Foley's with an outdoor patio. They can come back in December, I think, to renew the license. Am I correct, Jamie?
Well, we're talking August now, and the renewals will be in December, ma'am, so if there was any
there's a problem, you can
problems...
come back and talk, and then we can discuss that, but have they been bad neighbors so
No,
far? So
no.
that's, okay. So we just ask if you give them the opportunity and
Yep,
chance.
I appreciate that.
Okay, no, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else from public comments? Seeing none. Motion.
Chairman.
Close public hearing?
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor to close the public hearing?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Cohen.
I'd like to make a motion, we accept a beer and wine license for Mike's Diner.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Same. Congratulations.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
very much.
Taj Estates. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for being patient.
We have
Where's a 6-year-old when you need her?
Betsy, how you doing? Okay, thank you. Betsy, you're doing a wonderful job.
Technical difficulties, gentlemen and ladies?
Are you trying to show us the drawings that we have here?
Yes.
Can we follow along here?
Certainly you could.
I think we can follow, but the people at home won't be able to follow. That's what the big thing is. Eric, can you take this and scan this in or no? All right, buddy, just checking. No, I was just checking so the people at home can see this. I don't want to, residents have the right to see what's going on, so. There we go, up and running.
Existing conditions, yeah.
Good?
I think that'll work. All right, good evening.
Good evening, gentlemen.
My name is Jonathan Rockwell. I'm a project manager and highway engineer with Vanessa and Associates.
Can you bring that a little closer just so the people at home can hear you, and because the acoustics in here are brutal?
Sure.
Thank you.
So my name is Jonathan Rockwell, project manager and highway engineer with Vanessa and Associates. And I'm here with Scott Thornton, who's an associate and traffic engineer with Vanessa. And we're here representing Taj Estates developer, the residential development that's currently under construction on Central Street, opposite West Street. And we've been requested to come here tonight by the town engineer to basically for an informational meeting to review the conceptual improvement plan for the mitigation measures that are proposed in conjunction with the Taj Estates development. And as you know, the off-site improvements that we're depicting here are a condition of the comprehensive permit for the site. And the plan that we've developed to date has been reviewed with the town engineer. Back in June, we met with him and his staff to review an initial plan, took in some initial feedback from Mark, have updated the plan, and we're here to present that to you tonight. And then we're here to answer any questions you may have after we just walk through general elements of the plan. One One thing I just want to preface this with, I mean, we understand, I know some question came up, Mark had mentioned, that we understand that the final certificate of occupancy won't be issued for the site until substantial completion of these improvements. So we just want to walk through these with you, give you a chance to ask questions before we move forward with the detailed design of these improvements. So in general, the improvements consist of reconstruction of Central Street and the intersections of Central and West and Central at Island, as well as installation of a traffic signal at the intersection of West Street, Central Street, and the proposed site driveway. And Central Street is proposed to be widened approximately 2 to 4 feet, generally on the south side, to provide room for an exclusive left turn lane to the site development, to West Street, and then to Island Street. Proposing to reconstruct sidewalks on both sides of the road throughout this stretch, from west of the elementary school up to east to Island Court. The plan also includes widening and realigning West Street to provide a 2-lane approach to Central Street, narrowing up that great expanse of pavement that exists there today, providing room for, also at the intersection, in addition to those 2 approach lanes, providing room for a pedestrian refuge island that was requested by the town engineer in the intersection, just to give pedestrians a chance to pause across the intersection if for some reason they got trapped there during the pedestrian phase. We're also proposing to reconstruct and widen Island Street from its current width of 20 feet to provide a 24-foot wide roadway from the rear access to the site, which is a gated emergency access only, from there to the intersection with Central Street. And the intersection of Central Street and Island Street will be reconstructed also, similar to the condition that exists today at Central and West. It's a wide open expanse of pavement. We're going to tighten that up a little bit, make for safer pedestrian crossing movements while still accommodating the large vehicles that we understand turn there today. So the Central Street at Island Street intersection will consist of a delta-shaped island for pedestrians to pause as they cross that intersection, a slip right turn lane from Island Street to Central Street, and then for the large vehicles that are turning right onto Central or onto Island from Central are afforded kind of a larger expanse of pavement to accommodate those turning maneuvers, but that'll be striped out so that typical turning maneuvers from a standard vehicle won't need to utilize that area. So as I mentioned also, the sidewalks will be reconstructed throughout this segment of the corridor. Accessible curb ramps will be constructed at all intersections. Across all 4 legs of the intersection of Central and West will be a new crosswalk there. And there will be proposing an exclusive pedestrian crossing phase as part of the signal operations there. And then one other element that the town engineer requested was to extend the proposed sidewalk on the Island Street side of Central Street up to the easterly limit of work, or the up at Central Court, or Island Court, sorry. So one thing to note on West Street with the realignment, part of West Street today is constructed actually outside of the town right-of-way. So we'll be realigning it to line up with the Taj Estates development driveway, bringing it within the public right-of-way on the east side. But when doing that, and with the widening that's required to accommodate the 2-lane approach, it will require a right-of-way alteration or right-of-way taking or permanent easement along the Hanson Elementary School property there to accommodate the realignment of West. I think in general that's it for the major elements of the plan, and I guess I would open it up to any questions that the board may have or any
I got a
attendance.
couple questions.
Sure.
First of all, thank you for cleaning up that site because it's a disaster. Me personally, I don't care for apartments. I'd rather see condos, but that's here to say none. When do you plan to start this project? We have school starting within a month. We've already had a fatality there. Now you're bringing in heavy equipment. You're bringing in lumber material to build these things, concrete trucks, whatever you need. As going on during the day, you're going to cause more congestion and more danger for pedestrians, especially our children. Me personally, I would not let you do anything until these things were fixed, protect our residents, most of all our children, before anything else gets built, but that's not my wish. But can you answer me these questions?
So once the town engineer and the Board of Selectmen have seen the plan, the town engineer has asked that we present this to the board prior to moving forward with the detailed design. The detailed design process for these improvements we expect will take probably approximately 6 months between design, and I understand that the town has a peer reviewer that will review the design, the detailed design. So once that design process is done, we would move into the bidding and construction phase. We expect that the construction would not begin until next spring.
When school is out, I mean, you can't do it with schools going on because...
The design plans will include a comprehensive traffic management plan to accommodate travel during construction. Typically, I mean, the town obviously will be issuing permits for this work, given that it's on town roadways. So the town has the ability to restrict the work hours so that they're not occurring during those peak school arrival and departure times.
Well, I know work has to get done with construction. I understand with peak hours and everything else and bringing in lumber and all that, but you're talking traffic from 7 to 9 o'clock with school, bringing school in between all the high school and junior high and the elementary schools in that area, and parents and everything out after 9 o'clock. So are you going to hold up your lumber trucks and cement trucks until 9 o'clock? That's already 2 hours wasted of the day. That's a lot of money wasted, I understand, but I'm not going to put the children to jeopardy. I'll tell you right now.
No, understood. The typical traffic management plans that we put together would ideally maintain 1 lane per direction as exists today during the construction period. And any time that it was required to restrict the roadway width to a single lane per direction, there would be a police detail required on site.
Mr. Tisdale, do you have any problems with these plans? None, sir? Okay. Mr. Brown, do you have any questions?
Yes, could the work be done at evening, during night?
No,
Like they
because
do
you
on
wake up the
highways?
residents. No, you'll wake up the residents banging and
Why not? Is it a reason?
people live in that area. You hear air guns going off and air compressors. Yeah, you can't do that in a building at night.
telephone number, Peter, so they know what to call at 3
Yeah, they did Central Street last year with the gas working complaints I got at night, you know, banging and hammering and excavating. No, it's got to be done
All
during the
the
day,
time.
but the question
Okay.
is you bring the lumber in between a certain time so they can start building.
I have no more questions, thanks.
Mr. McCrisky?
Well, on the traffic, and you mentioned police detail, that's plural, right? It'd be many details.
Yes, obviously, yeah, as required.
In this area with the traffic flow, and, you know, I am concerned with the school traffic hours as well. Traffic during that time, the fire road's not going to be paved, that's going to remain dirt.
My understanding is that that will be like essentially a permeable material that, like an open brick course that grass can grow through, I understand. I mean, we're not the site engineers, I'm not sure exactly what the detail
Could we
is for
use
that
that,
roadway,
though,
but-
as the access road for construction equipment? You know, once that things get going, I mean, I know it looks half as wide as your 2-lane road. It's got a clear line of sight, so you should be able to use that road for most of your construction traffic, you know, during construction. After that, you know, it gets blocked off with the gate that is going to be put there permanently. But it just, I think it would alleviate some of your problem that the chairman related to with deliveries and so forth. I mean, it's a safer way, too.
Okay, so you're referring to construction of the residential development site
Yes.
itself? Okay.
Yes.
I mean, we're here really just to discuss the off-site roadway improvements.
No, I understand, but the chairman mentioned something on traffic when construction goes on as well. So the more we can limit what goes through that 4-way intersection while you're adding the sidewalks, which, you know, I'm in favor of everything you have here. I think it looks good. It's definitely an improvement. But I'm just talking about when this roadway is being worked on top of that, you know, you're going to be getting multiple deliveries. You're going to have multiple contractors in and out. And, you know, to just lessen the impact on that, you know, utilizing Island Street more, you know, would definitely be a step in the right direction. So, you know, I guess I'd say take that back, you know, if, are we looking for a permanent vote tonight on this whole plan? Mark? You looking for us to vote for this tonight? No? Okay. So that's what I would ask you to go back and just look at the use of the access road during peak construction times. Maybe some of the active, you know, you would know better than I who the most active users from transportation. Most of the heavy work's being done now, but vendors and so forth, that be their primary source of entrance and egress, you know, during the roadway. And then also on the Central Street side up towards Tosca Drive, why does that sidewalk end where it does? Why doesn't it go right up to the intersection?
All the way to the intersection of Tosca Drive?
Of Tosca Drive, yeah. Why does it stop where it does? Why don't we just go to the top of the hill and complete it?
The conceptual improvement plan that was referenced in the comprehensive permit actually showed a sidewalk dead-ending west of Island Street. So when we developed this concept, we came up with the proposal to extend it to Island Street and then provide a crosswalk across Island Street at the termination of that sidewalk. And when we reviewed that plan with the town engineer, he recommended that we not provide the crosswalk across Central at Island, but rather eliminate that and then extend the sidewalk up. So that's extension of that sidewalk is actually additional work beyond what was required in the approved plan. So further extension up to Tosca Drive, again, would be additional work that we'd have to discuss with the developer.
All right, Mark?
Tisdale, you want to probably go up to the screen and show people at home, grab the mic so people can hear you too then?
Mark, you follow what my question was? Yep. Okay. I guess my other question with the funding, congratulations that you got for additional sidewalks. Are you going to be able to address it with that money?
You read my mind. Essentially, let me just back up one second. First, everybody knows this received a comprehensive permit through the ZBA. So this plan, not even this plan, one even more general than this, was approved from a comprehensive permit. And there are so many questions I had that what was approved. Are there crosswalks? Are there sidewalks? It was really just showing a signal and some basic details for Island Street. So they've been pretty good to work with us in bringing this plan to a level where we can understand what they're actually doing out there, which technically they didn't really even have to because they got the comprehensive permit. My concern too was that, because I was getting a lot of phone calls, that before the...
No, that's West Street. That's the Chemung. No, wait.
All right, we'll get a Doc Eric's pay.
Chemung right here.
You know, Eric, one of these days I got to go peek in your little area. You must have batteries lined up all over the place in there.
Can you train your bees to fly the batteries out?
Yeah. All right.
I'd keep the cordless one.
Yeah. But turn it off before you throw it on the table.
Okay, let's start over. Talked about the comprehensive permit, and they had this conceptual plan. I was just concerned about some of the details that it didn't show, so I asked them to kind of bring this plan into the next level so we can see what's going on. There was a lot of questions from certain selectmen, certain residents about what was going on, and some of the questions were referred to that, well, we thought the off-site improvement should be constructed before they started building buildings. So it was a gray area, and I had town council review this because I also had questions on that same matter. And essentially they came back and said, no, they can start the building of the structures and the site work and all that, but before a final CO is issued to that building, the off-site traffic improvements have to be substantially completed. So that was my big concern. They have worked with us to actually make some improvements. They are constricted to their limit of work that was on the comprehensive permit. So to answer your question, why aren't they extending the sidewalk? They're extending the sidewalk up to the limit of work that was on the approved plans through the comprehensive permit. I'm not so concerned about it, and this is the reason why, is that the Tosca Drive intersection is going to be on the tip. We all know that takes a while, but it's probably a 3 to 5 year process to get that done. All that work will be completed up to their limit of work. And then what you just mentioned about the sidewalks on Central Street from Tosca to Pearl, that goes up to the other side of the limit of work. So pretty much from West Street to Central and Pleasant Street, to be honest with you, that whole corridor will be done and connected from a pedestrian standpoint. So that's why I'm not so concerned about bringing the sidewalk another 50 or 100 feet up, because our project will come down to their limit of work.
Okay.
Mr. Cohen.
Emergency exit road coming out the green where you're going to bring your deliveries. This unit, I think, is 178 units in there, or maybe more. And I imagine there are going to be a lot of kids in there, correct? I think.
It could be.
Yeah, in terms of projections for school-age children, you know, that was probably discussed during the comprehensive permit process. We're just looking at the traffic aspect.
I understand. Children are very exploring. Side road out. Island Street is a death trap. If you haven't seen that now, you will see it if you go back and look at it at rush hour and off hours too. People run up that street. No sidewalk from Central Street up to that island. The question I have, kids are very exploring, or ride a bike down. I'm dangerous to ride a car down a certain part of Island Street. No, that's a bike. And I see, and I'm just bringing it up, no sidewalk up to that thing. There might be a problem of children and people walking their children, again, a big complex, walking up to Central Street, come out the side way, and I'm sure that road will be paved or somewhere where they can walk on it. And also, another concern is, if you looked at Island Street during peak times, very hard to get across that. There's been many, if you go up the police station and look at the accident reports, there's a lot of accidents on that street. Tosca Drive is bad. They're going to address Tosca Drive. I see no light or intersection there to even a crosswalk to walk the people across. That's a very dangerous. I mean, the town manager already turned data over to the Canton Police, trying to work with them. But even still, this road is a narrow road up in that instant there. And getting out of there, just go there at 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning and watch them try to maneuver their way out of there.
Yeah.
It's a very, very concern to me, especially no walkway.
Yeah, we'll pass on the concerns related to use of that emergency access path for pedestrians and the residents. There may be some other treatment that the site engineers have looked at to keep people off of it. But there's a lot of, there's sidewalks all through the site, and there's sidewalks that'll run out onto Central Street. So that aspect has been considered. But we'll bring up the point about
The only
that
thing is,
access.
children always explore.
No, it's true.
You put a blockage up, they'll go under it.
Yeah. Good point.
And if you looked at Central Street, very narrow street, that section coming out.
Yep.
That's my concern there. And possibly traffic during rush hour to stop. I mean, some of these people come down Central Street. You got a few, and we're addressing Tosca Drive, did a great job on Chemung Street there, addressing that problem and moving the traffic. That's another headache right there.
Yeah.
Even if you put some kind of going across the street there, even a traffic thing, a flashes in case they wanted to cross there. But the cars that come out of there at rush hour are a lot.
Yeah.
Mr. O'Regan.
So I lived through about 87 versions of this project when I was on the zoning board. Might have been 88. And from what I can recall, I think this layout is a nice refinement of what those drawings were. Much easier to see what's going on. than I can recall. Are you doing anything with the slope and geometry of the intersection at Island and Central, or are you just dealing with the sidewalk and the curbing? There was considerable debate in the 40B hearings about, see the little island there on Island Street?
Yes.
And turning radius for the building there. And I can't tell by looking at the drawing if you're doing anything at that intersection and what it would be.
Right. We're not proposing any vertical changes to the roadway geometry. Simply in this area, widening the pavement cross-section on Central Street to provide the additional lane, and then reconstructing the intersection, the curbs on the corners of the intersection to kind of tighten that up. The high visibility crosswalks that we're proposing and that Delta Island there should serve as a safer pedestrian environment, but it's also been laid out to provide appropriate truck access. And I think you mentioned access for vehicles to that parcel on the corner. We'll have to be reviewed, because that area today is kind of a wide open curb cut to some degree. Trucks accessing that parcel on the corner just drive over the small berm that's there today. So we have to review with that property owner what curb cuts to provide to them to provide the appropriate truck access. But the town engineer and obviously this plan is, it's expressed an interest in installing vertical granite curb along all these side streets or on both sides of the street, with also providing slightly narrower driveway aprons. But again, we have to take into consideration maintaining whatever access is necessary for the size vehicle that's getting into each of those abutting properties.
Thank you.
Mr. McCrisky, you have another question?
One question, just curiosity. Do you have any local vendors working for you? Any Stoughton companies that are involved with this project at all?
No contractors have been hired to date for the construction. Again,
I
it'll
would
go to
ask-
bid and construction in the spring.
I would ask that you maybe include an ad in the local penny saver. We have plumbers that work here, we have carpenters, and there's a lot of people that have businesses in this town that would probably love a bite at some of that work. And maybe they can save you some money because it's cutting down the travel time. I just ask that you keep the local vendors, somehow try to include them in the bidding process.
Okay, and we'll certainly discuss that with the developer when we develop the specifications and bid package.
Thank you.
Mr. Tisdale, maybe you can answer this question for me. On that access fire road, I don't know if that's the engineering department or the building department. Can we force them to make deliveries through there and bring construction there, especially through school time? I mean, right now it's not bad, but a month from today when school starts, and traffic's, you know how traffic is in this town when this way they gotta go down Island Street, they have to go down, slow down Island Street, take that left into it, or
Yeah, well, it's a good question. At this point, we're sort of stuck. The comprehensive permit's been issued with all the conditions. It's been vetted through all the departments at that time. So the answer is no. But if they're willing to take on that recommendation from the board and implement that on their own, they certainly can.
I mean, I personally like to see that. Like it says, it's just prevent traffic and safety for everybody. That's
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I think when they start getting the detail bills, they're going to want to look to limit some of that activity. And I think that access road is going to look very appealing, So what we do have, as everyone knows, we have, and the police chief has the authority to set the amount of detail officers based on the impact on safety. So I think that it's going to be something that people are going to be looking for an avenue to save a few bucks, and that road's going to look like $1 million road within time. So I think it'll answer itself.
That's it. No, correct. Any other questions from the board?
I've got just one statement through you, Mr. Chairman, thank you. And I was going to say it earlier. Mr. Tisdale, I just want to personally thank you for what you've done through this process on information and making information available to the board. Anyone here knows I'm always screaming about communication, whether it's a phone call or you being here. I got to say, I've been here a long time, and you're the future of the town, my friend. You're an awesome engineer, and you're doing a great job. I just had to say that because it's a breath of fresh air when you come here. So thank you very much.
Tisdale, Joe's going to give you a $100 gift certificate to take you.
Oh, it's the other way around. Oh, no, I can't do that because I'll get reported to the Ethics Commission.
Pick the big,
$49.99, that's all.
Oh, no, I'll have an Ethics Commission violation on me 9:15 tomorrow morning, believe me.
Okay, beautiful.
I'm in the sites right now.
All right, is there anything else?
Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, thank you. Good luck with the project. HG, proposal sewer fee connections. Is that you, Mr. Tisdale?
very busy man today.
Actually, he is.
Thank you. This proposal that's in front of you is for sewer connection permit fees and I&I fees. Nothing to do with betterment fees. That's completely different. Betterment fees, we discussed previously with the board, we're still working on that. That's when you're dealing with construction of sewer mains in the road.
So this has nothing to do with
paying for
towards
that.
27 and all that area, correct?
Has nothing to do with
Okay.
that. This is a general fee that gets paid to the engineering department, to the town, when somebody comes in to build a house. They pay a permit fee, an inspection fee, then an I&I fee.
Okay.
So it's a pretty straightforward situation. And it's been a pet peeve for me that I've always thought the fees were pretty low since I've been here, because I've dealt with a lot of towns before I came to this town. But I did a comparison, and there's a memo you have, and I compared it to surrounding towns of Easton, Canton, Dedham, and Randolph. But you could really compare it to any town and see where we are. To put it in perspective, right now, we charge a $100 permit and inspection fee. Okay, now that's supposed to cover all the administrative costs to handle the permit, our secretary taking it in, processing it, us going in, out to the site, doing the inspections. We can do up to 3 inspections for a sewer service. I mean, just count the hours. It takes between 5 and 6 hours just to process a permit fee. And then you have the I&I fee, which is supposed to be to help pay for the removal of I&I to the system due to the increased flow. So if a new house was being constructed and they added so much flow to the system, they pay an I&I fee. Right now, our I&I fee is at $2 per gallon. So the bottom chart that I put on the memo is a typical, if a 3-bedroom dwelling got submitted, an application got submitted to our department and the 4 other towns I mentioned, I summarized the total cost of the sewer connection fees. The town of Easton, the fee would be $1,700. The town of Canton, the fee would be $3,650. The town of Dedham would be $1,735. Town of Randolph would be $1,650, and that's with me not even knowing their permit fee because I can't get in contact with anybody over there. And then the town of Stoughton, if you have a new house, it would be $760. And if it's an existing house, you're already there and you'd had a failed septic system, you'd only pay $100. There's no I&I fee. And the way I look at it is there's no difference between an existing house and a new house. You're putting new flow to the system in each one of those, and the purpose of an I&I fee is to try outweigh those costs. So the fee should be the same for both of those, and obviously more than $2 per gallon. So on the second page, the notes clarify what I'm trying to do. It's for all new construction, all existing houses. But essentially, I'm proposing a permit fee of $250 for residential permits, a permit fee of $250 for commercial permits. You may be asking, why are they the same? And essentially, it takes the same amount of administrative time and inspection time to process a residential permit versus a commercial permit. But where the change would be is the I&I, that the larger change would be the I&I fee. So we're going to go from $2 a gallon to $3 a gallon. The other towns around us have $5 a gallon, $4.50 a gallon, $5 a gallon. So I figured going from 2 to 3 would be not such a shock, but it would be an increase. And by increasing those fees to those numbers, that same example that I used for a 3-bedroom house, when they were paying $760 before, they'd be they'd be paying $1240 now, which is still $480. It's $480 more than the current Stoughton fee, but $410 less than the next highest surrounding town. So, I contemplated throwing around the $4 or the $5, and that's something the board might want to consider doing, but I figured just try to incrementally increase it, start off with the 3, and then maybe in a 2 or 3 years, maybe increase it if it seems that we need to increase it. By doing this, in theory too, it should decrease the amount of I&I articles we need to go for, because in theory, the I&I fee is supposed to help address the I&I fees for the increased flow. I'm not quite sure how that will play out, but in theory, that's how it's supposed to work. So I'm open up to any questions, comments.
Other towns are 4 and 5?
Yeah, for the I&I, so the fees are made up of inspection fees, permit fees, and I&I fees.
All new construction, basically.
Pretty much, yep. So you're looking at $5 in Canton. They seem to be pretty expensive. Dedham's $4.50, Randolph's $5. Easton, they don't have an I&I fee, but they get you on their permit fee because they have a permit fee of $2,000 for commercial and $1,700 for residential. So I think they sort of just roll the I&I into their permit fee.
So if we go up to the $5 now, the residents won't really kill us because it's all new construction, maybe, correct?
No, the I&I fee would be for all new flow. So if you had an existing house that had a filled cesspool and you wanted to connect to the system, you would pay an I&I fee. The only people that wouldn't pay I&I fees would be anybody who's doing repairs to their existing sewer system, sewer service on their lot. Any kind of repair to a sewer also needs to apply for a permit to the engineering department, but you don't pay an I&I fee for a repair to a sewer service.
Okay.
It doesn't make sense.
Thank you. Mr. Regan, do you have any questions?
Why do we want to keep our permit fee so relatively low compared to the other communities?
Well, the 4 others that I compared it to, Dedham has the $250 permit fee. So I thought it compared with them very, very well. Canton seemed to be higher across the board, just for everything. So I didn't like to use them as a straight comparison. And in Easton, like I said, their numbers are a little skewed in their permit fee because they don't have an I&I fee.
Okay.
So I thought the $250 was a reasonable cost, because right now it's $100. And I did a calculation based on our administrative costs, and it's between about 5 and 6 hours of time between a secretary and engineers doing the inspections and processing the application, and it came up to roughly $250. So that's how I justified the $250. It kind of made sense with the surrounding town and our straight costs for processing a sewer application.
Since costs are only, be nice if they didn't go up, but those processing costs are going to go up with all of the expenses of operating the town. Would it make sense to get a little bit ahead of that curve and price it at $300 instead of $250? And I'm not in favor of gouging people, but if the idea is to cover our costs,
These two guys.
within how long will that $250 be not enough to cover the cost? And by the way, how close are you to 250? Are the costs a little higher and you rounded down, or a little lower and you reached up?
I think we're at like 239.
Okay, so you have a little room.
Yeah. The fees have not been increased since 1985. I'd like to put that fact in front of you, too. So I think you have a valid point. I'd rather not come in front of you 5 or 10 years from now. I'd like to get this set now for the next 5 or 10 years at least. But I also didn't want to come off as just inflating everything too high. So certainly open for suggestions from the board.
Mr. Cohen?
How much is our old fees? How much are the old fees, putting everything together?
Yep. So the old permit fee, the current permit fee, it's not old.
Put it all together, Mark, the I&I, the other, like,
Well,
approximately.
the only way you can do that is comparing it for
You said what, 30 years back?
for a three-bedroom house. Let's say a three-bedroom house.
Okay.
Right now, a new house would pay $760, and an existing house pays $100. Okay? The next highest community is $1,650, and that's Randolph. And I don't even know what their permit fee, so it's higher than $1,650, but I don't know what their permit fee is of the calculation.
This is only for new construction, people are building new homes?
This is for everybody who's tying in a new sewer service connection.
Right, the existing homes that do not pay this fee.
Right, if you have a septic system right now and you're not connected into the sewer line, you're not paying this fee. You're paying a
about-
fee through the Board of Health when you design.
What about the people that have a sewer system? They're gonna be even regular, just as all new, whatever it is, that's where it goes.
Exactly, good question, yes, it's
So
just
all new
s-
people moving in and doing their
Or new
house.
construction?
New connections. If
construction.
you already have a sewer connection, you're not paying this fee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. McCrisky?
All set, thank you.
Mr. Brown?
Also agree with Selectman McCrisky, you're doing a great job, Mark. I would entertain your recommendations and not a penny more, because it appears this year seems to be the year of increase. We raised trash fees, and I agree that fee increases, whether it be new growth or for existing homes, is a way to generate income. Do you have an expected amount that, let's just use new growth, for example. Do you have an expected amount how much the town will generate in revenue if these fees are increased? I mean, is it 50,000, 10,000? What more will it bring in?
I don't have that exact number for you. It's kind of tough to tell right now. We've got a couple large projects that are online. After those projects come offline, the numbers will probably level out. But generally speaking, we get about 50 permits a year, sewer permits.
Those new? You said new?
I'd say probably 2/3 of those are new. But when we have a project like we have Goddard Highlands coming online this year, that's going to be about 70 new homes. So obviously we're going to have more sewer
Are
permits.
fees included in new growth? They're not, right?
Right.
Okay. So it would be hard to, factoring that in is going to be difficult to do. My only other concern, and again, I would agree with entertaining your recommendation. I'm worried that all these recommendations are going to discourage in some cases, because you're talking about existing homes, and there's to talk about the sewer policy, and there could be some what have you. So I guess this is a mandatory type of thing. Do you have an idea of what existing home ownership we're going to be looking to connect the fee? If there's no mandatory type of policy or whatnot, do you expect any?
Right, so just to put this in perspective, like an existing home, first of all, the only reason why they would actually file a sewer permit with us is because their septic system has failed. So to upgrade their septic system, you're probably looking at $30,000 or $40,000. To construct a sewer service to the road is probably between $5,000 and $10,000. I know it's not really answering your question, but you're certainly saving a lot of money by connecting to sewer if it's available.
And one other thing, and this is my last one. Will increasing the I&I and other permits, will that decrease the potential borrowing articles for the I&I?
Well, that's what I was leading to. In theory, it should, but not by percentage points. Yeah, maybe instead of $300,000 a year for I&I, you're doing $250. Because this is supposed to help balance it out. It's only for the new flow.
Right.
The I&I articles that they're pulling out every year is to balance town-wide flow. So the new permits are only a small percentage of the town-wide flow.
I&I is a permanent thing?
Yes.
Always, right?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
What is the wish of the board? Oh, well, Mr. McCrisky, you want a question?
No, I was ready to make a motion.
I was going to make a motion to accept the recommendation of the town
Second.
engineer.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Tisdale, congratulations.
Thank you.
Route 138 sidewalk improvements, Central 138 intersection improvements project. Is that you too?
Yeah, I just,
Quick question, is this anything to do with Mass DOT?
oh yeah, everything to do with Mass DOT.
All right, I'm going to abstain from this because
Yep.
since I work for Mass DOT.
Just to rewind a little bit, as you know, we've just got a $400,000 grant for sidewalks on Central Street from essentially, from Pearl to Tosca Drive, up to the other side of where this project is. Anyway, I'd like to personally thank the Board of Selectmen for adopting the Complete Streets policy like you did, because without doing that, we couldn't have applied for this grant. So it's a really good thing, because you put a lot of hard work into doing these grants, and there's a lot of politics involved, and we were actually the first community to get the grant in Massachusetts. And we did a site walk with DOT yesterday, and the woman was, her name's Eileen Gunn, was just ecstatic about this, that we applied for, and very happy and looking forward to next year's grant cycle. So just want to mention that to the board, and I want to thank the board, and I want to also thank the engineering department staff that helped me doing this. Our assistant town engineer was a big player in this. He helped pull a lot of the paperwork together, and the transportation task force endorsed this also. So it was just a good teamwork type of thing. The Route 138 Central Street intersection, I just want to let the board know that we've informally been notified from our Regional Transportation Planning Agency, OCPC, that that intersection, but also including a sidewalk from Lincoln Street north to the intersection, is on the 2021 TIP, which is the Transportation Improvement Program, where and since this is a state project, the town will pay no design or construction costs. It's estimated at about $4 million right now, and that could change. It could go from 3 to 5. I mean, it's a very vague number now, but it's on the 2021 TIP. That's informally emailed to me last week by our OCPC region. And it wasn't just the engineering department, obviously. The planning department played a big part in this. Our town planner is a big player in all this. The transportation task force, the planning board, support from the town manager, the board of selectmen. I mean, it goes on and on. So it's really a community, goal that we achieved. So I'm pretty thrilled about that. So just want to let you know. That's it.
I guess I'd just ask, this program, will the town be the contractor on this, or who will be doing the work?
No, that's a state highway.
Okay.
So it's actually Mass DOT does the whole thing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Krisky? Mr. O'Regan?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Good luck. Great job. Great job. All right. Is our chairman here? Where did he go? Huh? Would you go get? Because I'll carry them.
Just keep going.
All right. Under new and old business, I'm going to read down the list. K&P status and evaluation.
I want to inform the board, just in case you didn't see something, in response to the meeting that we had with Mr. Kopelman last week and some other ongoing issues. I've sent letters to Kopelman and Page and to Mr.
We can't discuss that at all. We can't discuss it at all.
K&P law status and evaluation.
No, we cannot discuss that at all, I was told, so.
May I chime in on this? Mr. Chairman, just to help Selectman O'Regan. I believe there's been some confusion on a couple of these items, and because of, you mentioned correctly, the public attention, I contacted the Attorney General's office today and spoke with Assistant Attorney General Henny Rush, and I asked her an opinion on these first two items, and she said, given the nature that it wasn't something that was on the agenda prior to this, it should not be heard. Well, that's, I don't know. I'm not going to.
But everything that's here in the new business, I guess I'll just, everything that's here in the new and old business right now, did it get the 48 hours that it needed for advertising? I mean, made public?
So, A and B, K&P law status and evaluations and hiring of town council, the chairman asked me to put into executive session, which was discussed at the end of the last meeting, which there was also discussion questioning if it could be discussed in executive session, which when the agenda went out on Friday, it went out in executive session with the town council being listed on that. When our town council had advised us after the close of business that those do not qualify for town council discussions, they don't follow under any reasoning for executive session, we removed them and put them on the bottom.
Okay, so they got the 48 hours they need.
The town council was specified in executive session on Friday when it went out. I sent Dave the revised one yesterday morning. He replied to me last night at 5:45 stating the agenda was okay.
Yeah, and it wasn't listed on the executive session, so that's why we're not talking about it.
Town council was listed under executive session on the
But then it was
original.
taken off and it's not posted now, so we're not gonna talk about it.
It was moved to, what do you mean it was taken off? The executive session? It was just moved to new and old business.
Yeah, no, these, do I understand you correctly? These were in executive session. Council said they can't be spoken about in executive session, and you moved them to new and old business?
Right.
Okay, my question is, do these, if we were to discuss them now, do they comply with the open meeting law? Because
Hiring-
I'm not involved.
I don't think so.
Chairman, you're the one that does this for us. My neck's not on the line. If I act on it and it's illegal, and believe me, I'm in the crosshairs. So if that were to happen, it's your failure, not mine. So it's.
I'm just telling you, as of Friday, it was posted, the town, litigation for the town to discuss, forget how it was exactly listed. The town council was to be discussed in executive session until we were informed that it is not a reason for executive session.
Okay, so these weren't posted downstairs as of Friday under this section then?
No, they were
Under
not.
that section, no.
Okay. So that is then we can't discuss A and B? Is that what we're hearing now?
Yes,
Okay.
cannot discuss A and B.
Okay, so we will put that on the next agenda?
Can do that.
Which is what it should be? I mean, okay. Is there anything else we can't talk about tonight? Everything else was on that posting as of Friday, Jamie?
What about the hiring of,
Yeah, we can do
No,
that.
none of these, like hire in-house vetting company, town parking, all this, were these,
those are all listed.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. They were all there? Okay, so they were all posted Friday? Okay, I just want to make sure.
Okay, Bob, could you pass some of these things out for
Sure.
me? For the, excuse me, old and new business, to hire a company to vest in-house police application.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. McCrisky.
I've been challenged by Selectman O'Regan
I have one.
regarding my right to discuss this, and I have accessed counsel and waiting on an opinion. So until I have a written opinion that it's legal for me to act on this, at this time I'm going to recuse myself from this vote.
Okay, Mr. McCrisky, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to hire Badge Quest. It went out, Mr. Cohen's passed some things out. Up to 5 candidates, $600 to $800 for 1 full day.
Gave him mine.
To hire Badge Quest to hire an in-house police chief. Is there a second on my motion? Badge Quest semi-assessment, they will interview up to 5 people of $6,800, up to 5 candidates for 1 full day, and if it's 6 to 10 candidates, it's $8,900, which is less than the $10,000 to hire, to evaluate or interview the next candidate for in-house police chief. So I'd like to make a motion to hire Badge Quest.
Well, I'll second it for discussion. Second.
Second. Okay. What's your discussion, Mr. Brown?
the original process here. This was
Neither was I.
Yes,
this
you
was done
were.
in March, was it not?
Well, we're looking for a company to do this, and I know we don't have to go out,
I know.
because under $10,000, we don't have to go through procurement, and I think we owe it to our men and women of the police department to search for a candidate in-house. I know, no disrespect to our new fire chief, but none of the firefighters that were in-house were allowed even for an interview, and I will not allow that to happen, so I'm making a motion to hire Badge Quest. If there's a second, I'll take a vote on it right now.
So Badge Quest is the consultant that you want?
Yes.
That you made the recommendation to do the
Yes, there's all,
interviews of the
their evaluations. are
in-house, and only in-house?
Only in-house, yes, sir.
I seconded anyway, already, so
Oh, I
I
have
just
a-
asked clarification.
How did we get these? Where did these come from?
Where did what come from?
That they're passed out at 8:35 on the night, just as you're asking for a vote on it. We haven't seen these before today.
I just got them today. I just got a
Where did you get
proposal.
them?
I printed them up all. I called the couple companies, and this is what I got. I think it's the cheapest price.
You called the companies?
I looked around online, yeah.
What other companies did you call?
Offhand, I got them written down at home. I don't remember offhand. One's actually on the memorandum of the thing, but this is the motion I made, and I want to vote on it.
Well, so,
I mean, do you have an agenda against the police department, Bob? It's a legal vote. We can take a vote.
no, I don't have an agenda against the police department. In fact, I have an agenda for the police department,
Seems
but at 8:35 on an evening on an important issue like this, you pass out material and you make a motion to approve what you pass out without anybody even having time to read what you passed out or understand what's in here. You don't tell us how this came about. You don't tell us what it is you said to BadgeQuest or any of the other companies you say you contacted. You don't tell us which companies you contacted. You don't tell us when you contacted them. You don't tell us what it is that you use to filter through and identify BadgeQuest as the company to contact.
All
You
right,
just
so how's
make the
this?
motion.
How's this? You can look at this, and we'll put it on the next agenda to vote for it.
Well, I'd like to know who else was contacted. I'd like to know what it is that was presented to them. A request for proposal was issued in April. Proposals have come in.
We do
Why-
not need those proposals, though.
Why don't we need, Mr. Chairman, why didn't you put on the agenda, since they came in, why didn't you put on the agenda that we take up those proposals and act on them? Why didn't you include whoever responded to those proposals in whoever you contacted for this proposal, if you did or didn't? I mean, can you answer any of those questions?
Mr. Chair, let me help you in a minute, if I can, if you'll indulge my request.
It just came in, but okay, I'll get it. Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
They're dated July 25th, 2016. They didn't just
RFP.
come in.
Where's the other RFP that came in April, or you're talking about, referring to? Have I seen that one yet? Email to everyone. So you have one RFP.
We had two.
Now you have two.
No, there were two responses.
three.
How's this?
No, there were two responses to the RFP that were sent to us in July that were never placed on our agenda
Okay, so I'll make,
to act on.
we'll put this one and the other two on our agenda for next meeting. How's that?
Wait a minute.
Well,
wait
I
a
think
minute,
there's, Mr. Chairman, I think that there may be a
wait
procurement.
wait a minute. We got, you said you sent these out when, Jamie? When did you send these out, may I ask? The other two requests?
I think procurement did.
It was in mid-July.
No, when
sometime.
was it sent to us, came out to us?
Yes. You can't mix the three of them together.
What bothers me is, I'd just like to know, when did you say they went out, Jamie?
It went out maybe a week or two ago.
Okay.
It was mid-July.
We got these in April. And someone sat on these till Mr. McCrisky asked for them. Is that right?
No.
Is
The-
that
the
right,
R-
Bob?
the
I
R-
just want to ask
It is
you,
not right.
is that right to sit on them, and now we get them sent out when Mr. McCrisky opened his mouth and said, how about the bids?
No.
And then they show up. Is that right? I want the American people to understand, a bid went out, it was accepted, and we never saw him for 4 months.
No, your timeline is wrong.
Wrong?
The bid went out around May 1st, maybe April 30th,
Wait a minute,
April
hold the
29th.
phone. Who mentioned April here?
I did.
Well, is it April, what month did it go out? You said April they went out.
4 months ago.
Mr. Mark?
4 months ago.
April, when did they go out? April 20, you told us,
They went out the last week of April. They were not due here until May 23rd.
Okay.
and then how were they processed?
And then they were processed in accordance with 30B, because these are RFPs under Chapter 30B. 30B identifies a process. They were reviewed in-house, and they were ready to go to the board at some point in June. And in conversations I had, we decided, it was made clear to me that the board wanted to vet in-house candidates only, and the RFP, which is why I wrote this memo to the board, which went to you on July 20th, saying that if you're going to limit it to in-house candidates, which the board has the right to do, then there's a much cheaper way to do it that's just as effective, and that's an IFB process, which is what essentially you have from BadgeQuest, is a bid. It's not a proposal, it's a bid.
And
Mr. McCrisky, you were here as a resident, I expect?
No, I'm going to recuse myself from the vote, as it was, but we went into a whole different area of the RFP. I sent out an email on how I felt about the RFP. That was supposed to be reviewed by the Board of Selectmen. We're the appointing authority. When the RFP was proposed, it should have come back to the Board of Selectmen. It didn't.
Correct.
It had the terms put in it by the town manager, and therefore, putting himself into the process, it's a Board of Selectmen's appointment. So in my opinion, the RFP wasn't the right one to go out because we didn't have the opportunity to vote and accept it and forward it. Okay, so that's, where we stand on that RFP. If it's something, until my recent situation, I would have wanted to have involvement in that. And that night, I was very clear how I felt about how that RFP should be reviewed by the Board of Selectmen. So let's just make it clear as to what it was. So I won't be voting on the issue.
Just for the purpose of clarity, while the RFP was in process through the procurement office and the manager, we received regular updates that it was in preparation. We were advised that it was issued at about the time it was issued. I just don't remember the date, but it was last week of May, last week of April, beginning of May. It was posted downstairs.
Right, but it never came back to us for a vote either, Bob. Okay, so the process was flawed.
At no time in the process of the RFP did any member of the board, challenge, question, or request an edit to the RFP, even though it was always available for us to see.
It was available for us to see, Bob, but it went out without our authorization. We did not vote to release it. It's our appointment.
Sure, it's our appointment.
Right?
We should be allowed to vote.
Our appointment, so.
Mr. Chairman, if it's our appointment, and you were well aware that the RFP was in process through April and issued.
We weren't told it was the appointment.
Yes, we were. Read your periodic
Right, that's when I
reports by
found
the
out.
town
When I
manager.
read my report, I found out that it was sent out.
Yeah, but why don't we're going to vote on it?
That's all I'm going to say about it. We could sit here and talk all night. It's the Board of Selectmen's appointment. We should have been, the opportunity to say, it's ready to be sent out. Would you like us to send this one? But it went out on its own. They took the action on their own to send it out. Therefore, they muddied the water. I would have given the opportunity when it was all done, it was out, ready to go. That would have been the time for the board to say, let's review this and make sure this is what we want to send out. But we weren't given that opportunity.
So in the meantime, we're presented tonight at 8:35 a package.
I'm recusing myself from that.
A package from one potential vendor, and the board is not advised on what this potential vendor was told when they prepared their proposal. I mean, there's a little bit of a contradiction here. How does the...
I need to clarify the record, because in your package you got on July 20th, it was explained to you why it went out. It went out because Chapter 30B assigns the entire process for an RFP to the chief procurement officer. And under the charter, the manager is the chief procurement officer. And that's why it went out. That's why I point out in the memo, again, that it was made clear to me the board didn't want me involved, and that's fine with me, but then you have to change your process.
How do we change the process? Because we don't want the RFP.
Well, again, the memo I sent you on July 20th, David, lays that out for you.
Okay, I will do that then. I will do that then. We will change this process for no RFP.
So if you have a motion on the floor here,
Is
so
that-
before we
I do have a motion, so that's,
I'd like to ask Selectman O'Regan to point out, Mr. Hartman, you said July 20th we got a packet?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to check because
Yeah, you received it via email. You were also told that there were written copies
Yeah.
in your mailboxes. Because some of you prefer written, and some of you prefer electronic.
yeah, I'm the written.
So I just want to make sure one thing is clear or not. Is it consistent with the, what was it, invitation to bid? Is that, what's the alternate?
The town's practice has been to, if it's under $10,000, we can seek quotes. We don't have to do an IFB. But the practice has been that we seek 3 quotes.
All right.
And in this particular case, as I point out in your memo, you know, the IFB process or the quotes process is just as valid as the RFP. It's quicker and it's generally less costly.
So we have those 2 quotes plus this quote, correct?
No, I'm saying you can't mix them because
Okay.
we would be breaking the law.
All right, so I'll
It's
get
2 separate processes.
I'll get my 2 other quotes then. All right.
So all we need to do is call 2 other companies to do it, explain what you're looking for, and, you know, that can be done by procurement, it can be done by the board, it's up to the board. But our practice has been to get at least 3.
All right.
So, Mr. Chair, would you be willing to withdraw that motion and?
I do. I withdraw that motion. I'd like to make a motion that Mr. Brown, if you could contact 2 other companies then.
Huh? What?
Can you contact 2 other companies, including Badge Quest?
I don't have that expertise. I don't even know what you're referring to.
I'll go online and look for more. No, it's not true.
Has the motion been withdrawn officially?
Yeah, motion's been withdrawn. I'll just call 2 more, you know what, I'll take it upon myself, I'll call 2 more companies saying, well,
You want me to work, what are you asking me to do? To reach out to 2 other?
2 other companies,
Now we have a total of 3?
can't use those other 2.
You can ask the other 2 to participate in this news
Yeah,
cycle.
we can provide a list of 4 or 5 companies to do this. When we sent out the RFP, it went out to nearly 10 companies.
Okay.
One of those companies,
So you made that somebody's a second, I guess, I don't
one of
know.
those companies my friend works for.
Don't need it. All right.
And he said the initial paperwork,
I'm gonna
never
just cancel
seen
it.
a bid go out with so much front information, he took it and threw it out. That's why you didn't get anything back. There's she has her process to do, but when you put 20 pieces of paper, and I don't know how many were on there, a lot of them didn't want to bid it. I'm just saying that.
Actually, it's in the packet.
I understand, Mike, but the initial of law so-and-so and so-and-so, people get panicky.
Yeah, it was probably 20, 25 pages.
And they get panicky. This thing, and again, I'm not a procurement officer, I don't do a job. There's got to be a better, they panic when they see all this stuff, and they just don't want to bid it.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask, why would we not use the 2 companies that have submitted proposals and give them direction on priorities, whichever one we picked, give them a direction on priority to focus on in-house?
These 2, plus this one too?
But we can't mix them. But we've got 2 from the RFP. Why could we not, if the issue is...
Absolutely not.
If the issue
I
is...
don't like those companies.
How do you know?
Because
Have
I
you
don't
read?
like
Have you?
Because they were picked, Mr. O'Regan, I have my opinion, and I'm entitled to my opinion. I don't want to use those companies.
Do we want to take a vote and reject this? You know, Mr. O'Regan, you sit here, he picks the company, and I'm getting it jammed down my throat now, too. And I'm not going to get it jammed down my throat no more.
It's under $10,000. We have the right to vote for it. We should vote
I'll
for it.
vote for this tonight. I'll put this right on the floor now. There's nothing wrong, but I want those other 2 votes just to make sure everything is right. Because you'll probably report me to the Ethics Commission. Bad enough that letter that went out was a disgrace. And I'd like to know how Dory Frankel got that letter. We'll find out. I narrowed it down to 2 people. And the Secretary of State's office has already called about this.
What's the wish of the board then? I think we can make a vote today, to be honest with you. It's under $10,000.
We need 2 other bids. Just go to the 2.
Don't need 200 bids, Paul. We do not need 200 bids. It's under $10,000. We are the Board of Selectmen. We can vote this tonight. I make a motion to vote Badge Quest in to look in-house police chief.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay.
3-1, it's passed. Jamie, could you reach out to Badge Quest to inform that they won this contract? Thank you. Write up a contract? All right, now. Tenant agreement then? Okay. I'll give them a call. Thanks, Governor. Town parking, that's going to be done up until September, correct, Jamie? They all come back? Stone Library, same thing. Public safety code enforcement. Oh, good. No, Mr. Go on, go ahead.
The Stoughton Public Library, Mr. Hammer, can I ask you a question on that?
Sure.
And if I'm wrong, correct me. When we put this out 3 years ago, match funds, 50/50 wasn't...
Your mic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I think, Bob, actually it was closer to 5 years ago.
5 years ago?
Yeah, because I've been here 3.5, and it was not put out it was already done when I got here.
Well, something is bothering me. 5 years ago, we have a school, when they came to us, everything was there. The building, the prints are all up to date. We voted something 5 years ago, or whatever it is, and now we're revamping this whole thing. We should have had a set of plans that were, these are the plans we're going to work on.
The
if I'm
committee
wrong-
voted last night to write a letter to the chairman. There was actually a meeting last night.
Yes.
And asked to appear before the board in late October, or excuse me, September, because by that time we'll have it tied down. Because of the budget constraints, as you recall, town meeting was very specific. We couldn't spend more than $7 million of town money. The building is different from the building that we were talking about 5 years ago.
Now, let me ask you a question. How much did the library commission give them? Was it 46, 50? What did
It's,
they?
when you add it all up, it's just under $7 million. Between the town money and the state money, you're talking $13,900,000 and change. And that's, and town meeting was pretty clear. That was the budget we had to live with. That was the building we had to build. And as you know, from your previous profession, things have changed greatly in the last
I guarantee that is
5
now,
years.
if that's it,
So-
it's up to $16 or $17 million now. Just
Well,
for the main-
except that that committee is still living with a $14 million budget, and they want to come and present to the board in
Well, let me ask you a
September.
question before they bring it. Is it going to be the same 39,000 square feet they proposed?
No, the state library people have agreed to reduce the building to, I believe, approximately 33,000 square feet.
Now, how many feet?
33,000 square feet.
Why are they making it smaller?
Because town meeting was very specific. We could not exceed $14 million in building the building. It was made pretty clear that we couldn't come back.
Well, we can't find a different site for it to go? I mean, my mic is on. Oh,
I think
Westwood.
The other thing that's happened, David, is that according to the library director, and she will address this when she comes, as well as the architects,
I mean,
it's very different now than it was 5 years ago. And
But
libraries
Why
are being
don't we
built
look for a new
smaller.
site? We can look for a new site.
Pardon?
Why can't we look for a new site and just put it back a year or two? I mean, we got a big money now coming up for a school. And you figure people's houses are gonna go up, now you're gonna put on top of that the
Well, if you were
library.
going to look at a new site, I think what we're talking about for the high school is roughly $470 a square foot. And if you're
No,
still
not for the
trying-
high school, I'm talking for the library.
I know, but what I'm saying
I
is
mean,
that if you're going to
Westwood
have
put up a
to,
beautiful building,
if you're going to have
enormous,
to
for
live with
$14 million.
$470 a square foot on a $14 million budget, you're not going to build a 40,000 square foot building. You're just not.
But the only thing I'm saying, Mike, is when we went to town meeting 5 years ago, why did it take so long to get to this point?
The way they fund libraries is, I think when town meeting approved it, we were 17th on the list, and we had to move up the list. It took 4.5 years to move up the list.
So when did we actually get this grant from the library? God bless you. You didn't cough, did you? I'll take that.
We received notice, I believe we took it to the fall town meeting last year. I'd have to check, it was either the spring town meeting or the fall town meeting, but that's when we received notice.
And they didn't come in with any new plans or anything at that meeting. They still used the old plans that they had?
Right, it was based on the original application. So where we are now is, and one of the reasons it's been delayed is once we hired an OPM and an architectural firm, they said, hey guys, you can't build that building for the amount of money you have appropriated. We met with the state library folks and got them to pass on a smaller building first because they have pretty strict requirements. So like I say, now we're down to somewhere 32,000, 33,000 square foot.
In the same location or a different?
Well, in the same location, and the big difference is it's now a building addition, whereas originally they were going to tear down 3 walls and just save 1 wall and build an entirely new building around 1 wall. That was the plan that went to town meeting.
See, I'm afraid we went to town meeting and telling them something, and now they're not getting
Not getting what they thought they were paying for.
wanted.
Yeah.
And now it bothers me because, be truthful with you, one of my friends works, he's a fireman in Westwood, and he brought me out to this, the library was built 3 years ago. And I wish someone would go out there and
You've
look
said this before.
at the library.
Talked about this before.
And I went out last week, and they told us all the mistakes they made. I met the head librarian, I introduced, she took me around, she said, I would have done this a little different. But they have a 32,000 square foot building. The only thing they said to us was tutor rooms, where the kids go in and get tutored. They would have put 6 instead of 2. To the little kid, we saw a little child of almost a year old playing with trains in the kids section, and I saw a 2-year-old that could probably run a computer better than I can. But they were there, and the parking lot was packed. They said the roof, the ceiling they had to replace because there was something wrong with it. But they had a reading area where you could sit down. I mean, I wish someone before we design would either take a senior citizen bus and bring them out there and make arrangements.
Well, I think the architects that we're working with were involved in a couple projects when we are talking about building a building approximately the same size as Westwood's.
Is it going to look like Westwood's? That's the problem. I mean,
what I saw at last night's meeting, which is still not finalized, which is why they don't want to come to the board, because they don't want to come to the board with one concept and then have to come back.
No, I would rather see them come with a final concept.
It looks very different than the current building, very different.
Well, I mean, I'm just afraid people are going to say we voted something and we're not getting what we bought.
That's a danger.
Is there anything else, or?
No,
So they will be looking, you'll be getting a letter, David, from Gary Alacqua, who's chairman of that building committee, asking to appear on an agenda in late September.
Is there a motion to adjourn? Oh, I gotta get going, so if you want to take over, then.
I'll make that motion. Okay, second. Wait a minute, can I have one question? We have a meeting scheduled for Thursday morning.
Let me figure something out. I'm just gonna say something about that
There's
now.
a meeting Thursday morning about special town council.
See, let me finish that.
And...
Can I finish?
Huh?
Let me say something.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There is next meeting is Thursday morning, 9 a.m. It was supposed to be put on the agenda, it wasn't. It's an important matter. It will be publicized on TV. It has been done in the past, not frequently, but it has been done in the past. Meetings have been taken prior to hire past town managers, and first floors with no conference on TV, but the next meeting will be Thursday, the 11th, at 9 a.m. up here in the Great Hall. So motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
On behalf of Mr. O'Regan, Mr. Cohen, Mr. McCrisky, Mr. Brown, and myself, have a good night, everybody. Thank you.